All right, Angry Joe and Delrith back from PAX South, and I need to take a
All right, while we do that, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, watermelons. I love watermelons.
Hey guys, Angry Joe here with Delrith, and we just got back from PAX South, so we want to do a little vlog with you guys and some updates for the Angry Joe show. Yeah, it was a pretty fun show. By the way, if you guys don't know Delrith, he is my co-streamer on Twitch, so when I'm not doing Twitch streams, I was like, oh, I see people donating and subbing, and we wanted to bring more value to the Twitch channel. So when I'm not streaming, it's usually Delrith streaming or any number of our community members who are hosted on the particular channel, just so that you guys always have content to watch on the Twitch stream. And then also, Delrith is helping me out, and other Joe is helping me out. And this year we're going big, so you're gonna see double the amount of angry reviews. Obviously, you haven't seen any angry reviews yet in January. Not a whole lot out. I think right now, Grey Goo just came out. I think Dying Light is about to come out. So as far as what the next review is, I'm probably planning either Grey Goo or Dying Light, and then ramping it way up from there. So I hear you guys, angry reviews are definitely going to increase, and these guys are going to help me do that. Other Joe not here right now. He didn't make it to PAX South because he had to work.
Ah, yeah,
Terrible person.
How dare he?
But he'll be there next year. So anyways, so let's talk a little bit about what we saw at the show. Let's see, the first thing that comes to mind, what would you say is the best game at PAX that we saw? I think the game that makes me the most excited, and which is why I'm going to talk about it first, is Dreadnought.
Yeah, Dreadnought.
Dreadnought is a game that fucking speaks to me, okay? You guys know how much I love space combat and big capital ships and seeing little, like rockets slam into the hull and lasers fire off.
And chunks firing off
and that's exactly what Dreadnought is. In fact, the trailer is so awesome because it makes fun of how there's been this revival of space combat games with fighters and stuff, and then this big old Dreadnought it makes it think it's yet another one of these games, and then this Dreadnought slams into the fighters.
It's like,
knocks them out of the way.
Ours,
That's cute.
That's cute. There you go.
So Dreadnought is like an online sort of, I don't know what to call it. It's a battle arena, right? And it's 5-on-5.
That we know of. It's
5-on-5. And think of it sort of, it's a third person, so you get to see your capital ship and all the fucking badass effects and stuff. So they allowed us to get some direct capture footage for that, so you're gonna get our full opinion on that later. But guys, seriously, look it up right now, and or just check out the video, I'll link it, of our playthrough of Dreadnought. You're gonna fucking love it.
And spoiler, we kicked ass.
Yeah, we fucking...
We kicked a lot of ass.
Yeah, we kicked a lot of ass. And it's addicting. It's one of those games that you immediately want to play. We get home and we're like, damn it, we want to play some more Dreadnought. It's going to be, it's got multiplayer, obviously. The multiplayer is going to be free to play. And then they're going to do episodic single-player content. So I'm really excited about that. What is the next game? Also, on that same booth, I think one of the biggest booths was actually Greybox's booth.
Greybox,
which does, half of it was dedicated to Dreadnought, and the other half was dedicated to Grey Goo.
Yeah.
Now, we love Grey Goo. We've already played it. You guys probably have already seen our Let's Play. If you haven't seen the Let's Play, here's the link below. Go check it out. It's got our full opinion on the game. It's a throwback to RTSs of, the days of Westwood, and I really enjoyed it. What did you think about Bridges?
I liked it a lot, and it's got a really strong foundation. I think that a lot of people will enjoy it, and honestly, it came out while we were at PAX, So I've been seeing a lot of people playing it. And honestly, I want to get home and play it with friends, is how good it was.
Yeah. We do have a little bit of concerns with Grey Goo. The multiplayer side of it was rather light. Yeah. We talked with the developers, got in their face. It's so funny because the people at the booth had recognized me and seen me when I went up there for an interview and stuff. And then I was like, could you bring the lead game designer over
Yeah.
here for Grey Goo? And I hammered it.
Made him
and
feel it.
Del too. And so we were like, why this? Why that? Is the human faction broken with the conduits? Why is it just up to 4 players? Why don't we get this and that? And to his credit, he had answers for quite a bit. But we just want the game to get better. What were you going to say?
There was one answer he had that I thought was a little bit meh. And
Which one was
it was
that?
the one about how many players can be in a map. And he said that the entire reason it's just 4v4.
Oh, yeah, that kind of seemed a little...
Or, sorry, no, 2v2 is the max. And he said
Yeah.
the whole reason is because any more would lag people's computers. And I'm sitting there...
No, that's bullshit. You
Yeah.
gotta optimize your game better if that's the case. We wonder about hopefully increasing the number of players in the future. And,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
you know, like all games, they plan to, support the community post-release. So we might see a little bit more support for Grey Goo. Saw a lot of indie games.
A shitload
of indie games. And because it's PAX South, like the first year,
Yeah.
the show was relatively smaller, and obviously, so that the indie games gets to proliferate and take a bunch of
a lot of the booths.
a lot of the booths and stuff. So we saw Beyond Seoul, which is sort of like a if you guys are old school, remember Dreamcast. It's like Armada, where you have these ships and you fly around in that isometric view. But in this one, you build your cities, and then you go out and do trading and stuff like that. I guess it's a little bit roguelike.
Yeah.
But it's a single player, and it's in space, like I said, the whole space thing.
It looks pretty
We
good.
also saw, and that's from Praxia, and we met Zachary, the president there. And there was Eric Schaefer, the president of Double Damage. He is doing Rebel Galaxy, which is another game that really interests me because they do... You have a ship and you're flying, and it is also like rogue-like, and you upgrade your ship. But what really was impressive to me in Rebel Galaxy is you see the different screens of the races as you get to talk to them. You have different dialogue choices, and I was like, God damn it, why didn't even Star Trek Online when it first came out didn't even have that shit? And over here you got an indie developer who knows, like, there's so much oozing theme there.
The thing that was impressive is I was watching that and I was sitting there and I'm like, different races, alien. Oh, Civilization should have done that. Because look, this indie dev can spend his time and do it.
Yeah.
But a multi-million-dollar company's like, I don't want to do animated screens.
Exactly. And then so we saw that, and then of course we got to talk about Guild Wars 2.
Oh.
So it was a pretty awesome trailer, but of course their trailers are always awesome because I love the music in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
Everything feels so epic. But we kept, after the presentation, if you guys don't know, Guild Wars 2 is now introducing a new playable area. It's this massive jungle with 3 different distinct areas. There's a single new profession, which you've seen before from one of the famous characters, that you can now be. And then they are also doing new world versus world stuff where the terrain actually, you could capture terrain and the terrain will give you different abilities and you'll see terrain move around and stuff.
Yeah.
So that seems pretty interesting. And then of course,
the mastery system,
Yeah.
which is basically their new, instead of raising the level cap, their new levels will be mastery points, which will give you more and more abilities or augment your current ones. And those are account-wide, which is pretty cool. And those will be gotten from like exploration and achievements and things like that, rather than like killing random monsters and stuff. So there was that.
And they also had, here's the funny thing, is they have now what's called World vs. World Guild Wars, where guilds can finally engage in war. And now we would look at each other, we were like, this is the first time that Guild Wars has actually had wars between guilds. And here we are 2 years, about a little bit more than 2 years, I think, from the release of Guild Wars 2, not to mention Guild Wars 1.
Which had them at launch.
Yeah. So then there's guild halls they recommend. So these are 2 features that we were really excited about.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, guild halls, I can get everybody together. I could do badass angry army meetups. And we can, and for the guild versus guild, that makes it more thematic, and people come and challenge the angry army. So I'm definitely going to play the game. Okay, sum it up. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't blown away. To me, thinking generally now, if you're a Guild Wars 2 developer or producer or whatever, and you're like, okay, it's been a long time, our player base has sort of shrunk a little bit, let's release an actual expansion and get people back. This expansion didn't really feel like it had that oomph where it's like, yes, I'm fucking coming back. It had this feeling where it's like, that fucking should have been in the game a long time ago.
That was what I felt, and honestly, they didn't give a release date too. Was the other thing. So we thought when it was coming out, it's been 2 years. They were gonna be like, bam, fucking tomorrow, that shit's going live.
Yeah, that would have been. Now that would have got us.
Yeah, but they said it's to be determined or to be announced or whatever. Which
it's like,
means,
what the fuck have they been doing? Because previous Guild Wars, they released expansions like every
year.
9 months or every year, and this one took like more than 2 years.
It's going to end up being 3 years almost before it comes out, and it's one of those things where it's like they don't have endgame content and stuff right now, and they're adding it or adding challenge content and stuff later. And
the Wool vs. Wool was supposed to be the endgame content. It was just a weird, to me, it made me reflect on how Guild Wars 2 went about their post-release content. I shortly left afterwards because the World vs. World was still kind of fucked up. They needed to tweak it a little bit, and then they decided instead of doing these regular expansion packs, they were going to do these. They keep bragging about it. 40, challenge stories or living world stories, which I wasn't that interested in. You had to be really hardcore. You got to keep releasing expansions to keep people interested. Yeah. So, anyways, the stuff that we all wanted is finally coming to Guild Wars 2, and yes, we're gonna play it.
We're going back in.
We'll bring the Angry Army, dude, because the Angry Army. I know this was before I brought you on. The Angry Army was fucking massive in Guild Wars 2. We were kicking some fucking ass. Another thing is Gearbox. So Gearbox, obviously, they're closest to the show, I think. Being sort of in the Dallas area, so they brought Tales of Borderlands panel, and they had but their big thing was Homeworld. As you can see, he's wearing one of the shirts that they gave out. We are huge fans of the original Homeworld, and when I heard that it was being remastered by Gearbox, I was still a little bit pissed off with Gearbox because of the Aliens Colonial Marines. So I kind of ignored it. I thought they're just going to fucking rehash it, re-release it. But after I spoke with the guys and learned all the stories behind what they're actually doing with the game, I was like, really? Really? Oh, okay, now I'm fucking excited. Tell them a little bit about what they are doing.
Basically, so when Relic, I think it was Relic died, the IP went up for sale, is the story they told us, and there was a bidding contest, basically, to buy these IPs. So they went there and they pulled their marketing guys in, their lead coders, their programmers, and they sat down and looked at it and said, oh my god, I remember Homeworld. This was me growing up. I loved this game. It meant a lot to me. It was like the most engrossing story ever. Let's save this franchise and buy it and redo it and not change anything other than make it look better. So they got it. They went and they got the original art guy. They got the original music guy. They got all the old original tracks, the tapes.
He was like, the audio is real crunchy and fucked up when they got a hold of the code. And they were like, well, if we're going to update the graphics with all new art assets, which are basically recreations of the old art assets,
they're so accurate,
using the same artist, they were like, we got to have better audio to go along with that. And so they called up the audio guy, and they're like, hey, man, do you still have like the master tapes for the... He's like, damn, man, this is 15 years ago. I don't know if I still have those. And he found them in the back of some closet or something.
In his closet, he said.
It's a real good story. So they ended up putting together the game, and what surprised us the most is they, obviously, since this is a combined deal. You're getting Homeworld 1 and Homeworld 2, right?
Yep.
But the multiplayer, what they're actually doing is in combining the factions. They didn't want to split the player base. So you got Homeworld 1 and Homeworld 2 units in a single contained multiplayer. So you'll be able to play Homeworld 1 stuff with the Homeworld 2 stuff all in multiplayer. And I thought that was really, really awesome.
I definitely got to take a moment, though, to say, usually I'm super critical about companies and games, and I get yelled at a lot for being really blunt. But I have to say, I respect the hell out of a company like Gearbox going and saving a franchise.
Yeah, and they went back to all the original developers who the company shattered, so they had to find where all the original guys from Relic was. That was pretty cool.
And they brought them back in and said, help us redo Homeworld. And, you know, they didn't throw in, like, microtransactions or
Right,
their own
fuck it
shit.
up with some
They
nifty-
kept the game the way it was and just made it beautiful and remastered it. And you never see that anymore. An IP dies, it's dead, or it gets bought up and turned into freemium.
Yeah.
And
And so if you're a fan
yeah.
of Homeworld, it's going to be a huge treat. And I know there's a lot of you out there that are younger than us that have not heard of Homeworld and not played Homeworld. It really was the first 3D RTS that really got it right in space. And you know, other fucking space games have been trying to live up to what Homeworld did all those years ago, something like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So definitely check out Homeworld if you're a fan of RTS strategy, space, sci-fi. It's
good.
really, and the best part about it is it's only fucking $35.
$35.
We thought, well done, Gearbox. This is a nice little thank you after the whole Aliens Colonial Marines
Yep.
debacle, which they were cool with too, because I talked with them and about that, and they were like, you know, hey, they obviously they couldn't say
They weren't
much.
like, kill Angry Joe.
Yeah, they were like, get the fuck out of here.
What are you doing?
Fuck that guy.
Get out of our
No,
house.
they know that you know, some people are bring them to task over stuff. Anyway, so really cool to see the Homeworld come back. Also interesting. Speaking of you know, rubbing the wrong way sometimes. I've got a Nintendo contact. We went over to the Nintendo booth. They were showing off their new was it 3DS
Their new
XL?
3DSs, yeah.
And I was just there. I was trying to talk to these reps, but mainly they hire out these booth support reps. But there was an actual manager, social media community manager, and PR rep there. So I got their card and I let it loose on them,
Yeah, you did.
telling about what had happened on YouTube, and they pretty much confirmed what I was thinking, that it's, you know, Nintendo Japan, there's Nintendo America, there's Nintendo Japan. Nintendo America understands YouTube, and they are doing their best to convince Nintendo Japan that, you know, doing the kind of shit they do on YouTube is against their better interests, and it's in everybody's interest to quit being fucking dicks.
Pretty much, yeah.
They didn't say it like that, obviously. I'm telling you like it is. So I finally got a Nintendo contact, and I don't know, man. They said they're working on something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but fuck it. You know, they were like, we're working on some plans for people who want to do Nintendo content, something like an ambassador or partnership program through Nintendo. I'm like, God damn it, Nintendo. You just want to control everything. That's what it's all about.
Money.
That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. It's like, come, if you want to cover our games, Mario Kart 8, and not get it flagged, you come to us first, and we'll look at the content and say whether it's all right. And so this whole, no, we'll fix it, but you have to go through this partnership or whatever thing that they're working on, that would not be cool with me. I'll give more details on that and figure it out. But at least they were cool. It probably helped that a lot of you were coming up to me on the show floor as I was trying to find a Nintendo rep, that all the Nintendo people were like, who the fuck is this guy? Why is he getting so much attention? And then finally, when I turned around to the rep, I was like, hey, my name is Angry Joe with the AngryJoe Show.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And fans were still coming up, Angry Joe, Angry Joe. And I was like, yes! Because it makes
me up.
It makes the PR reps, you know, want to talk to you more. So I got to thank you guys out there, the viewers, for allowing that to happen. So, and then I took some time, because a lot of people don't know, you know, that PAX is not only about video games, but there's lots of tabletop stuff. There's card games. And Del now knows it. He's seen my room with board games. Tell that condition of that room.
I think there's more board games in his house than
board game stores.
than board game stores. I think he could honestly stop doing what he's doing now and sell board games out of his house for like 6 years, and he would still be okay.
I don't have that many board games. That's pretty funny though. But you know, some people collect you know, comic books and stamps and rocks and shit. I collect board games. I can fucking and at least you can play them. So anyway, I'm huge into board games. So I went over there, and before I started the Angry Joe Show, I had all these really cool board game ideas, and still yet nobody has done some of them. And but as I've tried with some of my friends across the street to make a board game ourselves, we found the hardest thing is the actual, card on the text, the way they interact with each other, the plus minuses, a lot of mathematics involved in game design and stuff. And so I realized after a while that I shouldn't really be trying to make a game all myself. I should just try to find somebody who's good at that shit and just be the producer role and have them I'll tell them what I want and have that person work out the mechanics. So I got all excited about running around to these indie game developers trying to, show off their babies, their games that they've created. And so I first went up, talked to them a little bit about their games and said, wow, that's really cool. And then asked them what their next project was or if they just like creating board games to get a feel if they could maybe in the future work with me to do like a Kickstarter or something on my own board game ideas. So we met a lot of really cool people. Robert Huss from Counter Clockwork Games has a really interesting deck builder / board game that he's working on. And he was already getting a little bit of attention from the indie showcase on PAX South. Same thing with Floodgate Games. Ben from Floodgate Games does a board game called Epic Resort, which is really awesome. Thank you to him for talking with me. And then there were super small guys where I was just looking out on the table. They didn't have booths. They were just like a little sign written in Sharpie like looking for play testers. So I went up to that guy and I told him all about my show and stuff. And his name was Paul, and he's a game designer from Tasty Cookie Games. And he was working on his own game there, and we got into talk about game designs and things. Passion Project Studios has a card game called Super Fantasy Rumble that looked really interesting with really nice art. I met Lewis from there, co-founder there, talking about it. And Christopher Amburn, game designer of New Experience Workshop. Thank you for the time to talk to me, and good luck on your games. And finally, they had what appeared to be a bigger booth, and it was John, creative director and partner for Ninja Division. If you don't know Ninja Division, they make some really good games. Super Dungeon Explorer, I think, is one of their games, and they're having a new Ninja game coming out on Kickstarter soon. And this was the CEO who was really kind enough to talk with me about how games are produced, game design and stuff. And he was totally willing to, exchange emails with me. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all those guys. Thank you very much for talking with me. And of course, all the fans.
Oh yeah,
They came up. Lots of really people, made me feel really good, and they were like, "Oh, we really like this one episode, and this episode makes me want to come back here, give you guys an update on what's going on, and then get back to work." So, so what you're gonna see on the channel upcoming here, we've got direct feed footage of 2 matches of Dreadnought, which I think is an exclusive. I'm not even sure if we're allowed to show it, but I'm gonna fucking show it.
We're gonna find out.
I don't give a no. We're not gonna find out.
No, we're gonna find out if you're allowed.
No,
I mean by doing it.
Well, no, they allowed me to hook up. What was so cool is they allowed me to hook up my laptop to one of their units that not normally is normally just for people playing it. So if they allowed me to do that,
I think they expected.
They did it to themselves. Okay, so that, and then Gigantic. We played Gigantic for a little bit. Let's actually talk about Gigantic. So this was how would you describe it? They didn't even know how to describe it. They were like, we're going to have a meeting on Friday about what exactly to call it. It's not really a MOBA.
No,
it's like, it reminded me of Team Fortress 2 with its cartoony art and graphics. And so it's like a battle arena. It was almost like one lane with a little bit of side paths.
Yeah, side paths. And the whole thing was about killing your enemy team's guardian, which was this giant
big ass
monster.
Monster, yeah.
And it was lots of characters, preset skills. You level your skills by leveling. Like a normal MOBA type of thing. And it was very, very team-oriented. But I played a lot of the different characters. They were really well-rounded. Like, when you played them, you didn't feel like the character didn't, feel like it was supposed to. It felt like if you were playing a light scout, his animations reflected that. He'd like bounce around on like, you know, like a rabbit and be really fast about it. If you were playing a tank, when you hit somebody, you got that sound like bam when you hit someone and they go flying.
Really
and
good
stuff.
feedback in the game and great art design. Super fun to play. So much fun that we were only allowed like one session and we just kept going. We ended up getting 4 games. And the devs themselves jumped on to beat our fucking asses.
Yeah.
And that was another cool thing. All of the people that were working on the game were like so gamer oriented.
Yeah.
They weren't like a normal company. They were all like gamers themselves, just talking shit and ready to beat us. And they beat us in like a new
7
record.
minutes or
Less
something.
than 7 minutes we got our asses kicked. But I liked it because we asked for it. We were like, bring it, you know, we want the best fucking challenge. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we were like...
I do have a little bit of concerns, and, you know, if they watch this, and I'll probably shoot an email. Because one thing I like to do is, once we see the game and stuff, and you get the cards, and you're very nice to them and things, and I'm sure a lot of people go home, and then they put up the content, and they get stuff for their channel. But I like to send back emails saying, hey, man, you probably should worry about this or that, just to see what they say.
Yeah.
And I think developers these days really appreciate that kind of feedback because they get a lot of people kissing their fucking ass all the time and not telling them what might have they could have fixed before it came out.
Yeah.
So with Gigantic, there was some things that we wanted to talk about. I don't know, I'm a little concerned about the you know, the lack of depth, it seemed. They did say that we were playing on one map. There is going to be one other map at launch. But I was a little concerned with the lack of depth there. You know, League of Legends and Dota 2 have 3 lanes. So these 3 lanes and splitting up the teams give lots more different strategies and variation on what's going to happen as opposed to 1 lane and 2 Titans always fighting it out. So we'll have to keep an eye on, are there going to be multiple maps? Are there going to be multiple modes? Or is this just going to be a self-contained thing where it's just like, let's play this a few times and move on? There was also another concern that you brought up that was a really good point. Let them know.
So, you know, guys, a lot of you play MOBAs like League of Legends, and you know that it's a team-based, team-oriented game where, you know, everybody has to work together to win. But in some cases, you have a case where you have 2 really bad people on your team, or 2, you know, new players on your team. We won't even say bad, brand new players to the game. And you're really, really good. So say you're in by yourself and you're going like 16-0, you know, you're dominating so hard. What do you get from that? You get like gold or some sort of added benefit to yourself, which allows you to make up for the, you know.
Allows you to carry the people on your team who suck. And we had 2 non-computer players that were console guys, so they were struggling with the controls and had never played, you know, these types of online battle arena games. So they were really holding us back. But in a game that has no gold mechanics where you don't buy items to make your character even more powerful as you roll face, making yourself stronger, I never really thought of that much about the meta of those types of games where you can carry, and that's why they call it carry, because you literally are carrying the worst players. This game has none of that. So if you have just one guy on your team who sucks, you're gonna get fucking destroyed.
But it was,
at least in my opinion, maybe they have something to address that in the future that we're, you know, based upon our 4 play sessions.
It was the first time where I was in a MOBA, and or not a MOBA. I was in a game where I had to test this because, you know, the first game I went 16-0. I didn't ever die, and I was like, all right, you know, we still lost. So the next game we were going, I was like 27-0. And I was playing my fucking hardest, like harder than I've ever played.
MVP on the team, but he couldn't.
We couldn't win.
Couldn't carry
we just could not win. We did not win, and it was one of those things where if you're doing that good, you got what? I had like 12 times the higher kills of their second guy, or no, it was like, you know, like 7 or 8 times. But not to be able to win at that high of a difference, it's just like,
I think their replacement for the gold mechanic is actually experience. So the more people you kill, maybe you get experience faster, and you do get different abilities that you get to choose from. So they are having skill trees that you do in game. So you open up your queue and you go between a tree as you're playing. Well, more when you're respawning and selecting the different queues upwards. So maybe that's how they mitigated. So was there anything else that we did at PAX? There were a few appointments I had missed. I was hoping to check out Pillars of Eternity. I didn't get to check that out. We met a lot of really cool people. Operation Supply Drop, where military gamers. There was one gentleman who was an amputee, and he had this badass fucking robot arm.
Yeah, he did.
It was so awesome, and he threw up the devil horns with me. Let's see if I can find his card.
And he actually, his thing was, he made custom controllers for wounded veterans, and he showed us some of his controllers, and I wish we would have gotten like a really good picture of it. But he couldn't use his one arm to click. So he added buttons down at the bottom of the controller for the arm to be able to click his left and right triggers, and they worked great. They had great response and everything. And he made modifications for other people, so where if they didn't have their hands, they could use their arm still to control the left and right analog sticks, and it was just
Warfighter Engage is what it
it.
is. It's actually warfighterengage.org.
Yep.
So an all-volunteer effort of adapting game controllers, recreational and independence items for severely injured military heroes. He was really, I was talking with him for a long time because he had such interesting stories. So we met a lot of real cool, interesting people, and I overall, I loved it. And then when we got home, Del was like, "Man, Joe, you're really lucky to live this close to a PAX now."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yes, I want this PAX to be more successful, so that I don't have to fly fucking 7 hours or 4 or 5 hours to different PAXs. I want this PAX to grow." So hopefully, if you guys are interested in PAX South, you'll be showing up next year. Obviously, when they first start their smoke, not a lot of big releases, but over time, we've seen it grow. We've seen PAX East be really small. There's not much reason to go to it, and now PAX East, everybody wants to go to PAX East.
I do.
So hopefully, we'll see that same thing for PAX South. Okay, guys? Thanks so much for this small vlog. We got some more video content coming from PAX South. Dreadnought, Gigantic, and then I think that's it. We're also going to do a video on Nosgoth, so that's actually next because it went into open beta. We really enjoyed the game, and we said we'd do another video once it went free to play and everybody can jump in, so check out that video. And then after that, it's the top 10 lists and more angry reviews.
Yeah, next month is gonna be crazy because you
February's
got Evolve and Bloodborne and Homeworld now for
Homeworld. Yeah.
And it's just, oh man, I'm excited. February is gonna be great.
February's gonna be great, and then you go March Madness, and then shit starts to get out of control. All right, guys. So we'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show.